下来我们来看一下第3篇文章，一篇介绍 film history 的文章。
Listen to part of a lecture in a film history class.
Okay, we've been discussing film in the 1920s and 30s, and how back then film categories, as we know them today, had not yet been established. We said that, by today's standards, many of the films of the 20s and 30s would be considered hybrids. That is, a mixture of styles that wouldn't exactly fit into any of today's categories. And in that context, today we're going to talk about a filmmaker who began making very unique films in the late 1920s. He was French, and his name was Jean Painlevé. Jean Painlevé was born in 1902. He made his first film in 1928. Now, in a way, Painlevé's films conform to norms of the 20s and 30s. That is, they don't fit very neatly into the categories we use to classify films today. That said, even by the standards of the 20s and 30s, Painlevé's films were a unique hybrid of styles. He had a special way of fusing, or some people might say confusing, science and fiction. His films begin with facts, but then they become more and more fictional. They gradually add more and more fictional elements. In fact, Painlevé was known for saying that science is fiction. Painlevé was a pioneer in underwater filmmaking, and a lot of his short films focus on the aquatic animal world. He liked to show small underwater creatures displaying what seemed like familiar human characteristics, what we think of as unique to humans. He might take a clip of a mollusk going up and down in the water and set it to music, to make it look as if the mollusk were dancing to the music, like a human being, that sort of thing. But then he'd suddenly change the image or narration to remind us how different the animals are, how unlike humans. He confused his audience in the way he portrayed the animals he filmed, mixing up our notions of the categories human and animal. The films make us a little uncomfortable at times because we're uncertain about what we're seeing. It gives his films an uncanny feature. The familiar made unfamiliar. The normal made suspicious. He liked twists. He liked the unusual. In fact, one of his favorite sea animals was the seahorse, because with seahorses, it's the male that carries the eggs, and he thought that was great. His first and most celebrated underwater film is about the seahorse. Susan, you have a question?
But underwater filmmaking wasn't that unusual, was it? I mean, weren't there other people making movies underwater?
Well, actually, it was pretty rare at that time. I mean, we're talking the early 1930s here.
But what about Jacques Cousteau? Wasn't he like an innovator, with underwater photography too?
Ah, Jacques Cousteau. Well, Painlevé and Cousteau did both film underwater, and they were both innovators, so you're right in that sense. But that's pretty much where the similarities end. First of all, Painlevé was about 20 years ahead of Cousteau, and Cousteau's adventures were high-tech with lots of fancy equipment, whereas Painlevé kind of patched equipment together as he needed it. Cousteau usually filmed large animals, usually in the open sea, whereas Painlevé generally filmed smaller animals, and he liked to film in shallow water. What else? Well, the main difference was that Cousteau simply investigated and presented the facts. He didn't mix in fiction. He was a strict documentarist. He set the standard, really, for the nature documentary. Painlevé, on the other hand, as we said before, mixed in elements of fiction, and his films are much more artistic. incorporating music as an important element. John, you have a question?
Well, maybe I shouldn't be asking this, but if Panlevé's films are so special, so good, why haven't we ever heard of them? I mean, everyone's heard of Jacques Cousteau.
Well, that's a fair question. The short answer is that Panlevé's style just never caught on with the general public. I mean, it probably goes back, at least in part, to what we mentioned earlier, that the people didn't know what to make of his films. They were confused by them. Whereas Cousteau's documentaries were very straightforward, met people's expectations more than Panlevé's films did. But your true film history buffs know about him, and Panlevé's still highly respected in many circles.
这篇文章当中，它因为是历史性的介绍，又是一篇文科类文章，所以文科类文章当中呢，往往会涉及到对于某个人的介绍。那这篇文章当中介绍到的就是一个导演，对吧？他的名字叫做 Jean Panlevé，翻译过来叫做让潘勒维，对吧？是一个法国人，所以发音是 Jean Panlevé。然后当然在文章当中的话呢，教授还提到了有另外一个导演跟他进行对比，而那个人的话呢，就这个人叫做 Jacques Cousteau， 对吧？翻译过来叫做雅克格特夫，对吧？这样的一个艺术家，这两个人呢都是拍水下的世界的，所以这里大家看到这只海马 Seahorse， 这个就是 Jean Panlevé 他的作品当中最具代表性的一部作品当中的一个场景，而从这张图片当中，咱们也看得出来 Jacques Cousteau 主要就是拍摄水下世界的。当然教授提到一个的目的是为了突出另外一个，所以本文的全部结构的话呢，其实就有点像我们前面跟他讲过的马尼那马那篇文章，对吧？也就是说要让读者或者说要让听众了解这样的一个艺术家的话，了解他的一个 point 的话，那么通过另外一个 point 来突出这个的特征，对吧？好，那么我们来看一下几道题目。首先第一题 ，What is the main purpose of lecture？ 这篇文章的主要讲到的是什么内容？文章开头部分的语言，这个要听清楚。OK，we've been discussing films in the 1920s and the 30s。我们一直在讲的，这样是过去的这样一些内容，然后 background 的一个介绍。As we know them today had not yet been established， 对吧 ？How back then film categories， 当时的话，这个影片的分类还没有完全确定。We said that by today's standards, many of the films of the 20s would be considered hybrids， 是一个混合体，对吧 ？Hybrid 这个词，考官恐怕大家听不懂，所以的话呢，后面还有一个解释 ，That is a mixture of styles。That wouldn't exactly fit into any of today's categories。当时拍出来的影片很多的话，不能够给它准确的按今天的这样一个标准来进行分类，对吧？然后说 ，and in that context， 在这样一种背景下 ，Today we are going to talk about a filmmaker who began making very unique films in the late 1920s。所以今天我们要介绍的就是一个非常独特的导演 ，He was French and his name was Jean Panlevé， 对吧？那这样的话，第一题 ，To discuss the style of an early filmmaker， 那就很明确了。B、C、D 三个选项的话，可以说都没有太强的干扰性，对吧？也就是它其实是主要指向的就是原文前面的背景部分的介绍，但这个背景部分的介绍，应该大家是能够判断出来的，要听信号词，对吧？好，那么这是第一题，第二题。Why are Panlevé's films typical of the films of the 1920s and 1930s？ 为什么他的这个作品在当时的话呢是非常典型的？这里是对一个原因细节的判断。那么还是那句话，提醒大家，原因细节的话呢，在听的过程当中，第一个就是要注意把握节奏，对吧？要注意说话人语言的这样一个节奏性的转换。第二个的话呢，就是要注意这种直接原因和间接原因之间的关系。那么像这样的语言特征，如果大家能够熟悉之后的话呢，再回到我们的听力文章当中，大家听到类似的语言的时候，就会有一个比较强烈的反应，它就会触动你的某个神经的开关，你就能够记录下来了。所以我们听到是 That said, even by the standards of the 20s and 30s, Panlevé's films were a unique hybrid of styles。 再次强调 hybrid 这个词，由大家要搞清楚什么叫 mixture， 对吧？然后说 He had a special way of fusing. 插入 or some people might say confusing science and fiction, 对吧？它的最主要的特征就是将 science and fiction 结合起来。再往后看 His films begin with facts, but then they became more and more fictional. They gradually add more and more fictional elements. In fact, Penwave was known for saying that science is fiction, 对吧？所以这就是它的特征 fusing or confusing science and fiction, 对吧？那么这是它的独特之处，对吧？所以4个选项 They are difficult to categorize, 对吧？那为什么说他的作品是当时的这样一个典型呢？这一段我们刚才听到的这段语言和我们前面第一题后面部分听到的语言，两部分语言结合在一起，对应上了 D 选项。你像 A 选项、B 选项在文章当中都没有提到过，而 C 选项 They are easy to understand。我们刚才听到那段语言是 fusing or confusing, 对吧？所以这个都是不能选择的，因此应该选择 D 选项。主要对应的词汇就是 hybrid, 对吧？就这个词汇，对吧？好，这第二题，对于它的这样一个风格的特征的介绍，对吧？然后下面第三题。According to the professor, how did Penwave's films confuse the audience? 那么他的作品到底是如何让观众感到困扰的呢？How did Penwave's film? 这里问的是一个方式细节，对吧？然后4个选项，对吧？那我们注意到这个其实就和我们刚才听到的那一段语言之间就有一定的关系了。He confused his audience in the way he portrayed animals he filmed, mixing up our notions of the categories human and animal. 所以主要就是 mixing up。其实这一部分一直在围绕什么展开呢？就一个关键词 hybrid， 围绕这个关键词来展开。The films make us a little uncomfortable at times because we are uncertain about what we are seeing. 有的时候我们会感觉有点不太舒服，因为我们不太确切的知道我们到底看的是纪录片还是看的故事片，对吧？所以最后正确答案对应的是 B 选项 They depict animals as having both human and animal characteristics. 而在这一道题当中的干扰项呢，就是 C 选项，说 The narration is scientific and difficult to understand， 对吧？那这句话的意思就是叙述很科学，但是很难理解。那么这个就是希望通过一种语义上的逻辑的混乱来干扰大家。也就是说，如果叙述是科学性的，其实应该不太不太难懂。所以 science and fiction 的意思并不是说 narrative is scientific and content is fictional， 对吧？不是这个意思，而是说depicting animals as having both human and animal characteristics， 对吧？好，这是这样一道题目。然后我们再来看下面这道题 Why does the professor mention seahorses？ 为什么他会提到海马，对吧？那这就是上下文信息的结合了。对于文章当中的这样一个要点 point， 我们要有一定的归纳实力。我们听到是 In fact, one of his favorite sea animals was the seahorse. Because with seahorses, it's the male that carries the eggs, and he thought that was great. His first and most celebrated underwater film is about the seahorse， 对吧？那这样的话 ，C 选项 To illustrate Penwave's fascination with unusual animals， 所以这里的 seahorse 对应的就是一种 unusual animal， 对吧？那这个概念应该大家清楚了。OK， 这是这篇文章的第4题。那下面我们再来看一下第5题。第5题问的是Why does the professor compare the film styles of Jacques Cousteau and Jean Penwave， 对吧？为什么将这两个进行对比？那根据我们刚才的分析。对比的话，提到一个目的就是为了突出另外一个，对吧？所以这个突出，问题是它突出的点到底是什么？所以我们看它4个选项似乎都有一定的合理性。A 选项是为了解释一下 Penwave 是怎么影响了 Cousteau 的，对吧？而 B 选项说是为了强调一下 Penwave 它的风格的独特性。C 选项说 The artistic value 强调一下 Cousteau 的它的作品的特殊的艺术价值。那么这个选项是可以直接排除的，对吧？因为这篇文章重点分析的应该是 Penwave 而不是 Cousteau， 对吧？而 D 选项 To demonstrate the superiority of Penwave's filmmaking equipment 为了强调一下它的拍电影的装置有多么好，这个也是应该可以直接排除的。因为这篇文章主要讲到的就是 artistic style 的问题，而不是 filmmaking equipment 的问题，对吧？好，所以这个是我们判断。那 A、B 选项当中到底选择哪一个？那还是要看原文当中说话人的叙述。我们听到是 Well, Penwave and Cousteau did both film on the water， 这是他们的共同点，他们确实都是拍摄水下电影。And they were both innovators， 两个人都是改革者、创新者。So you are right in that sense。But that's pretty much where the similarity ends. 好，我们听到这么一句话 ，But that's pretty much where the similarity ends. 这也就是他们最大的共同点了。共同点只有这么多，也就是说，区别大过共同点，对吧？那这样的话，咱们选择的毫无疑问应该就是 B 选项了。The uniqueness of Penwave's filmmaking， 对吧 ？OK， 那么这是这一道题。那么最后一道题重放题。说话人说这句话的时候，它是什么意思？那原文说的什么呢 ？Well, that's a fair question。这问题问的不错，对吧 ？The short answer is that Penwave's style is just never caught on with the general public。他的潘乐维的这个风格从来没有流行过。I mean， 好，我们听到 I mean 的时候，通常要注意一下，对吧 ？I mean, it probably goes back at least in part to what we mentioned earlier, that people didn't know what to make of his films. They were confused by them. 他们感觉比较困惑，对吧？然后 Whereas Cousteau's documentaries were very straightforward， 而他的纪录片的话 ，Cousteau 这个人的纪录片呢就非常的直接了。Met people's expectations more than Penwave's films did， 对吧？好，那这样的话，I mean 后面还有对吧？继续 I mean it probably goes back at least in part to what we mentioned earlier。人们该怎么去考虑他的这样一个问题，对吧？但是最后有 ，sorry。好，当然这一段说话人还没有说完，对吧？后面还有，but you are true. Film history buffs know about him, and Penwave is still highly respected in many circles. 一直到现在，他都非常受尊敬。所以，这一段语言为什么教授提到这段话的时候，到底想说什么呢 ？C 选项 ，High quality filmmakers are usually well known， 对吧？就是说，只要是高质量的电影拍摄者，他们的作品最终通常都是会得到人们的认可的。对吧？好，那么这是这样一道题。至于 A、B、D 选项的话，在我们这篇文章当中，相对来说的话，可能就没有那么强的干扰性了，对吧？好，那么这是这样一篇文章。其实文章的整体思路应该是比较简单的，它就是要介绍一个 artist， 对吧 ？artistic style 这个艺术家他的作品是什么？对吧？完了以后他的风格是什么？对吧？完了以后他用了什么手段来展现自己的这样一个风格，对吧？当然，除此之外还有个对比的对象，所以这是介绍人物的文章当中通常会出现的一种架构，大家稍微了解一下就可以了，对吧 ？OK， 那么关于这篇文章我们就先跟大家讲到这里。